All right, we're good. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So I have the view just on me right now for the recording. Let's go over some quick logistics and we will take it from here. So this will be approximately a 60-minute presentation. I really hope you get a lot of value out of this. I tried to pack as much as I can in here. I will pause at certain points to take questions. If you don't have any questions, we'll move on, but there will also be questions at the end. And last thing, just a fun fact, I'm colorblind. I think a lot of people get interested in hearing that and will often ask me questions on, do you know what color your shirt is and stuff like that. So we will defer those questions all the way to the end and we'll try and take health questions first. All right, so a quick overview of the agenda. You all might have seen this already, but we'll do a quick intro of who I am very quick there. We'll go over all the strength training stuff. We'll talk about the most incorrect exercise, why training movements better than body parts, things you can do today, and we'll have a longevity strength test in here. We'll talk about all the training for injury prevention, longevity, old man balance test. You guys can see everything here. We're going to do the maximum breathlessness test. I even put the ooh there. So anyone that wants to do this, the test will be optional. We'll talk about nutrition habits, sustainable for life, which is really important. And we're going to try to teach you to do this all efficiently as a busy adult, which is really important. We'll talk about blood work, sleep, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and we'll end with more questions. So let's get right into this right now. So who am I? All right. So I like to say I'm 50 years young. I've been a coach for over 20 years. The last 7 have been full-time. And the reason how that happened is based on this picture to the right here. I worked in IT for over 20 years. So I worked a desk job. So I know what that does to the body. And how to try and get back mobility. And like I said, this picture here on the right, sometimes in life, things will happen that change your whole point of view. And in 2015, so 10 years ago now, my dad just one day, boom, heart attack, gone. It really changed my life. It made me realize life is short. And so I went and got a bunch of certifications. I changed careers to do what I love. And now I help people to hopefully not let that happen to them. But you know, I need a lot of teamwork to do that because I'm on the fitness side, but it involves blood work and other stuff that we will talk about today. So let's jump right in here. So going into strength training for maximum return on your investment of time. So this is a really important one and one that I see mistakes with all the time. So first thing you need to know is that skeletal muscle is the tissue of longevity. Every single person should be strength training. Man, women, everything, just you should be strength training. It's just so important. And you're going to want to do it with, if you're busy for maximum return on investments, we're going to talk about how to do that. So this phrase here is key. Training movements with full body workouts and supersets is much, much better than doing body part training for busy adults wanting maximum return on investment of time. So we're going to talk about what those are. So movements are like training things that we actually do in life, like a push exercise, a pull exercise, a squat, a lunge, a hinge, which is what some people refer to as a deadlift, where you kind of hinge on over. Carries are important. We're carrying groceries, rotation. So it's things like that. And it's much better than training body part workouts, which bodybuilders and other people do, where they train chest and triceps. And a lot of times those workouts just are there's reasons to do them. We'll talk about that as well, but they're just not efficient. So movements is what we want to do our body do in real life, and that's what I want to train them. So we talked about this second ago, much greater efficiency, balance. A lot of workouts when people train body parts, they're imbalanced. And you're just going to get also, if you do it right and use supersets, you're going to get a zone 2 cardio benefits. You're going to get bonus heart health. Now, the time example here that I wanted to bring up is usually when someone is doing body part workouts, you see it all the time at gyms. They do a set and they sit on their phone, and then they do a set and they sit on their phone. And it's just really inefficient, and they have to break their body over days. And I always say, who has time to do that if you're truly a busy person? And there's other things that we need to work on to keep our body healthy, like mobility work, which we are going to talk about. And there's other things, zone 2 cardio, heart health. So when you take the big picture into effect, who really does have time to do that unless that's your job? And that's what I'm going to talk about here. If you are a competing bodybuilder or powerlifter, you probably have to train that way. But if you are just a busy adult looking for maximum return on your investment of time, you should be training these movements. You should be training full body as much as you can. And I have notes on this coming up with the full body, but it's just a much better overall investment of your time. Now, so if you do have time, you do full body workouts. But one thing that I'm always clear with my clients is anything is better than nothing. I have these short video exercises on my YouTube page called Exercise Snacks, and they're 2 minutes each. And if you do them, and and even if you did 2 to 3 a day, at the end of the week, you would have accomplished a lot more than if you did nothing. And these can be challenging too. This could be 2 minutes of box squats, 2 minutes of a move called eagle arms, one of my favorite moves. It's just anything is better than nothing. And so keep that in mind as well. Now, I always reference the book Outlive here. And if you go from 0 minutes a week exercising to 90 minutes, it reduces your risk of dying from all causes by 14%. So exercise is just so important. And one of the biggest things I hope we all do from this is that we take action, because having the knowledge is great, but you need to take action. So I really hope that that's what we accomplish here as well, that you guys can put some of this into your life. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. So how to build a routine. So if you want to start or improve your exercising, like we already talked about, why don't you try to think full body workouts with fundamental movements. Now, we talked about push, pull, squat, lunge, hinge, but you might be like, wait, that's a little confusing for me. So let's really basic it down then. If you do a push exercise, like a push-up, and we're going to talk about the push-up in a little bit here because it's the most incorrect done exercise. And then you think, well, I just did a push exercise, so now I need to do an exercise that's a pull. And that goes the same for a vertical. If you do a vertical shoulder press, you should do a vertical pull down. All right. And that's how we stay in balance. And that's what happens with a lot of people who train bodybuilder type exercises. They don't think in balance and they think back. But then they're doing their shoulder presses, their chest presses, and they're doing way more presses than pulls. And next thing you know, their posture is getting off. And it just creates more possible problems. So if you do push, pull, any type of leg exercise is usually pretty safe. And then a core exercise, you have had almost a full body workout. And you could do, say, a simple routine could be a couple sets of properly done push-ups. So you do a push-up, you do a pull, and then maybe you just alternate those two for a couple rounds until you feel like you've got a nice upper body work. And then you do some leg exercise. It might be something as simple as 3 minutes of box squats. We're going to talk about this a little bit more when it comes up on the next screen. And then a core exercise, do some bicycle crunches, something like that. And then boom, you have a full body workout with just some simple moves. Now, we talked about this here just a second ago. So you don't want to train too much of the mirror muscles. We want to keep our workouts in balance. In fact, a lot of people, if you have imbalances, you probably want to train more pull because that's going to be better for you in the long run. So I also really push with my clients body weight strength, because if you think about it, if you're strong controlling your body through movements in life, everything just in life is easier. It's great to get on a leg press machine and press 500 pounds, but where does that transfer in life? It transfers that you have the extra muscle, and that's good. And it transfers that you've gained some bone density from that weight. And it may transfer into certain moves, but it's not the same as squatting or as moving in life. And some people can leg press a lot, but then they have knee pain or they can't lunge or they can't do certain things. So training your body through movements is just a lot better. And this is a picture of me on Kilimanjaro. I summited that at 48. And people ask how I trained for that. And basically, I just say that I trained the way I just normally train. I changed nothing except I added more time going uphill, because once again, if you're strong with your body and movement, everything in life is easier. And Kilimanjaro is not a technical mountain, so it doesn't require much skill. So it's just a nice way to think of training. If you're strong with your body, everything in life is easier, and you will build plenty of muscle doing it. Bonus tip here. I always say, if you're strong in the bottom, you're strong through the whole kinetic chain. So you should train barefoot as long as you don't have any active things that going on with your feet, like plantar fasciitis, something like that. Or in minimalist shoes. I always wear these Paluva shoes. They're toe shoes. They are probably not the prettiest shoes to look at, but they are so good for your feet. They allow your toes to spread. And like, once again, if you're strong in the bottoms, you're strong through the whole kinetic chain. So we should be training our feet, balance, and stuff like that. We're going to talk about breathing. I always say breathe through your nose, and you can tape your mouth. We'll talk more about that in a little bit here. All right. So let me just do a quick, we're going to pause here for questions after this slide here. I just want to see if we're on time here with the presentation. So we're looking pretty good overall. Okay. So I kind of talked about a little bit this. So push-ups. A lot of times when people do push-ups, they let their elbows flare out like this. And then they create what's called, you can allow your shoulders to go into internal rotation, and they go more bone on bone for support. And then you're able to push off the ground and create force. But this, if I do this in this exaggerated position, it doesn't even look healthy. It looks like I'm, and it's technically not good for your shoulders. So whenever someone flares their arms out, it's your shoulders go into internal rotation, and it's not good for your shoulders. So Instead, what you want to do is you want to think of creating what's called external rotation, and it rotates the elbow pit forward and your elbow stays more close to the side. And this is a safe way to press. And if you think about it this way, if you were really mad at someone and you were going to push them, you wouldn't go like this because it's a weak position. You would actually come in tight and you'd be in this position here. You're in a strong position. You're going to push them very hard. But if you did this, it wouldn't create force. But why we do that, once again, is when your hand's on something, you can internally rotate your shoulder, grind it in there, and then create force off it. It's just not good for your shoulders. So that being said, keep your elbows more in tight and you do push-ups, and you can change the height of something to make that easier. So if I wanted to challenge someone, this could be stairs and the elbows could be in tight. And this is a perfect push-up here because I'm keeping my elbows in tight and you want to try and get past 90 degrees. So that's the most incorrect exercise. And the reason why I talk about that one is because if you do push-ups incorrectly, what's going to happen is over time, you're going to one day you're going to be like, why my shoulders hurt? I've been doing push-ups for years. I don't know why my shoulders hurt, but it's actually the bad push-ups that you've been doing, which is why your shoulders hurt. So I talked about this before. If you're going to do a full routine now, you've got your push-up, which you're going to do correctly. You can do a row. So any type of bent over row, a TRX row. So you do a push, you do a pull, and then even box squats here. Stand in front of a chair or something that you're allowed to touch. You can touch your butt to. Sit your butt back and do that for like 3 minutes. And you almost have a full body workout right there, throwing a core exercise. And now you've built your own kind of workout routine. Now, I want to talk about some different tests here and different things here. So a longevity test that I run on all my clients, and it depends on their level. Some people don't start here, but it is to see how long you can hang for. Your grip is a factor of how long you're going to live. And it's kind of tied into a lot of different longevity studies. And the goal would be that you can hang for about 50, 60 seconds. Now, that might seem hard for a lot of people. And so some people don't start there. Some people start with their feet on the ground. But it is a test to see where you're at. The opposite of that test, if you don't have access to a pull-up bar, if you have access to a gym, is to carry half of your body weight in each hand for a minute. And that's a lot harder than hanging, actually. But they're two really good longevity tests that I try to get my clients to work up to. And I've had several of my clients get there and be able to do it. It does take time, but if you practice, it's good for you. And the hang is actually really good for your shoulders. So a couple tips here if you're going to build a workout, though. Intervals and timers are your friend. I love doing 45 seconds of work, 15 seconds rest. And that might be a push-up or at a level you can complete it for 45 seconds, followed by a row for 45 seconds. They just keep you on target for the workout. I love having my clients keep a workout journal because that's going to keep you honest to what you did the time before so you can try to improve. We just talked about barefoot. We're going to talk more about breathing through your nose, but that's important in every workout. I try and push all my clients to do that. And then one thing that I think is important is that if you want to make gains in strength, you have to be improving. And so if I always did 15 push-ups every day, I'm not going to make gains. So that's why the journal comes in handy, because you always try and do a little better than you can, or choose a little bit more weight. And that's always going to help you to improve as well. So we can pause here if we have any questions. If not, I will continue on, though. I just want to give an opportunity. Any questions on strength at this point? All right. We will move on then. Let me put the screen back to the presenter mode. All right. So going on here to something that I think a lot of people miss in their routine, and that's this injury prevention, longevity, and feeling younger part. I really do think that aging has an effect on the body, but it's how you work with your body and the mobility work you do and your range of motion that really makes a difference. And I think this is such an important part that I have my clients do it as much as the strength usually, especially if they're missing range of motion. So movement screens, mobility work, and soft tissue work are the components to this area that really make a big difference in all these factors on preventing injury, generating more power, just feeling younger and stuff like that. So kind of already talked about this, very underrated, but especially as we get older, that's when we start noticing these things that we need to incorporate these. So a lot of times my clients will say, what is mobility? What's the difference between mobility and flexibility? So I can give you an example, but I can't actually do the full example. So you have to use your imagination a little bit here. If I were just to fall into a front split here, that would be flexibility. I have the flexibility to kind of passively fall into it. But if I were to walk into it all the way down until I was in a front split, I can't get there. But If I were to walk into it with strength through the whole range of motion, that is mobility. It's having strength and through range of motion and movement. So it's a little different than flexibility. You can be very flexible and have no muscle control and then have just as much injury chance as someone who is very inflexible. So that's the key there that's different. So this is kind of what I already talked about. The more range of motion you have with strength to control it, less injury chance you have, more power you can generate. It's what we want to do, always be working on in our movement and workout practice to improve this. So I want to talk now about what's called the I3 model in pain. And I think this is important. So the three main reasons we generally have pain in our body are from a category called incomplete mechanics, which also includes improper form or these kind of old weird things where you wake up and just maybe you slept funny and you have pain in your neck or something like that. Okay, that's kind of the main category, and that accounts for greater than 90% of the time. The other two are catastrophic, something like you're hit by a car, or pathology, something's wrong with you, like cancer. So in that category there, if you kind of analyze what's in there, incomplete mechanics or improper form, the old weird stuff we all sometimes deal with, but that sometimes actually can come back to those first two as well. That means greater than 90% of the time we have pain in our body. It's kind of our own fault. I hate to say that, but it kind of is. And it's usually because we've done something wrong, like we talked about earlier, bad push-ups for many, many years, or you have incomplete mechanics. And so when you have these incomplete mechanics, let's talk about the overhead shape, for example. Let's say I'm going to put something overhead and I don't have enough range to, and let's say I can only get to here. My body's going to compensate, and your body's always going to want to get stuff done. And so it's going to say, okay, I don't have this range here, so I'm going to compensate in my spine. And your body's great at getting stuff done, but those compensations are the things over time that add up, and then you get injured. And so it's incomplete mechanics go to incidence. So in that example there, you start doing this, and next thing you know, your back starts hurting, your shoulder, and you're like, I don't know why my back and shoulder are hurting. And then next thing you know, because you keep doing a certain movement over and over again, you have injury. And that's how this kind of happens over time. So how do you train mobility and soft tissue work? And what can I give you guys to take away here? So this area is a little bit challenging, but most people generally have an idea if they're tight or not, right? So the one thing that I can say, and I will talk about some of the components of a movement screen, is I think that everyone should have a movement screen done. I think it's really important that we all have a movement screen done. It's like having blood work done. It's a snapshot in time of how you're moving. And when you repeat them, you have other snapshots in time of, let's say I did a snapshot in time and had a movement screen today. And then let's say I didn't do anything at all. I just lived my life and I did a movement screen 6 months from now. If I had a lot of changes, say to the more on the worst side, I got a lot tighter, then I know that my daily activities of life are going to contribute to me getting worse. But if on the other hand, if I did nothing and I maintained the same scores, then whatever I'm doing in life is at least maintaining me. But the goal with the movement screen is to always do better. And that's where these strength and mobility work comes in and stuff like that. So one thing I like to say is what gets measured, get managed. And it's kind of outside of the full scope for me to go into everything in a movement screen here, but it could be something like, how deep can you squat? You know, when you squat down, can you get to here? Does your hips bend forward? Can you not go, your knees don't come over your toes? A whole bunch of stuff like that. So looking at how deep you can squat, can you touch your toes? This is like a spinal flexion thing. Can you roll on down, slight bend your knees? Can you touch your toes? Can you touch the floor? It might be the hand behind your head test, where can you bring your arms up your back? Can you touch your hands? How far are they apart? That's internal, external rotation. It also can include things like strength and cardio tests, and also breathing. And in my movement screens, I incorporate all those things because I want to have a snapshot of everything with my clients. If you can obviously work with someone like me or another remote coach, but if you're looking to get this done in person and you don't live in Chicago, most of my screens are done online via Zoom. I do them via Zoom too. But if you're really looking for in person, a certification you can look for that I have is called FMS. If you want an in-person trainer in California and you specifically want in person, look for someone who's FMS certified, just to give you guys a little background there. That's a good certification. So the last thing you can do in general is if you don't know what mobility work is, but you want to try and add something to your workout routine, I have a whole bunch of free stuff on my YouTube site. You can just start trying it out. I like to say that I have okay mobility. I can't do the splits, as you guys seen, stuff like that, but I have a fair amount. And if you go into a position and you're like, I have nowhere near the mobility that Coach Stephan does, then you know you have a room to improve. And if you're like, I got him beat, then congratulations, you probably have better mobility than me. You have better mobility than me there. And so you know it's at least a little better. So that's a nice way to baseline. You can just check out some mobility work online on my YouTube or other people's. Now, I want to talk about soft tissue work because it is insanely powerful here. And let me see how we're doing on time here. Okay, not too bad. Because it's insanely powerful and it can have an instant effect. And so a lot of people think of soft tissue work as foam rolling, but it goes into all these tools here. And this ball here is actually one of the powerful ones that a lot of people don't know about. And it's really, really powerful. Now, I do have to mention something though. A lot of times when someone comes to me, as a coach, legally, I can't help you with your pain because pain is for physicians and chiropractors and for physical therapists. But what I always say is that, and in this thing we're going to talk about here, dealing with pain, I just get my clients moving and feeling better, and that may resolve their pain, but I'm not actually fixing your pain. So there we go. I've got that legal disclaimer out of the way. Not because I expect any of you guys to sue me, but I think it's important to know the clarification that a coach shouldn't be dealing with your pain, but he can get you moving, feeling better, and stronger. All right. So that being said, soft tissue work can have an instant effect. And I want to tell you guys of one of my most favorite stories that just shows the power here. Now, this ball, which is similar to one of the ones in the picture there, is called a supernova. And I use this a lot of my clients. I've had, once again, remember that pain legal disclaimer I talked about? I've had people with knee pain come in and I have them smash for a certain, like maybe upper hamstring here sitting on the ground. In order to make change on a soft tissue object, you have to be able to breathe in the position. So which means you have to be able to do a full inhale and an exhale on it. If you're on something and you're holding your breath, you're rolling around, but you're holding your breath, you're not going to make any change. So I have my clients experiment and do certain things. So in the case of Mary, she came in and she said she was training with me in person, but she'd only come like once a month. And so she'd pop in here and there. And she said, I don't know what's going on. My back has been absolutely killing me. She had some medical conditions with her back too. She's like, I went to a surgeon. They want to do some operations on me. My doctor wants to put me on painkillers. She's like, I just wanted to come to you to get a workout and just try to feel better because it's just really bumming me out. And I'm just going through a lot of stuff. And I said, let's try something. I put this into her glute. Well, I didn't put this in her glute. She did. Clarification. So she comes down, puts this in her glute like this, in this side glute, cross her legs, and starts smashing out. And she's like, ooh. I was like, okay, I want you to breathe here. I want you to just relax. And if you find tissue that is painful under compression, the amount of compression is subjective. Obviously, if an elephant stands on me, I'm going to have pain no matter what. But under a lot of just general foam rolling your body, you should not have pain. And so I said, if you find a spot, then you're going to breathe into it. Kind of think of pushing down, then do really slow exhales and just try to get the tissue to melt. After about 10 minutes of her finding spots, fixing them, she stood up and she was literally in tears. She's like, the pain is gone and I feel so much better. She's like, how do physicians and doctors not know this? Now, a lot do now, but perhaps hers don't. And I said, it's just one of those things where we got lucky, but that's the effect it can have. It can be instant if you find something. That's why I love soft tissue work, because if something's going on, I get some tightness in my traps and neck, and I have these, I don't have them in here now, these two balls in a tote bag. They're massage balls. And when I smash out my traps, I can instantly get rid of any tightness in there. And so it's just so powerful, and it's worth it to experiment as long as you don't put yourself, if there's just minor kind of pain and you can breathe through it, you're fine, but never push through real intense pain. But it's just so powerful. It's worth it to have a soft tissue practice in your life. Now, I talked about the equipment. So you got foam rollers, you have that ball, there's other things. I can send out things that I use if you guys are interested. But the demo I want to do here is what's called the old man balance test. And I put down, it's important because this is something you can even do in the morning. Now, I'm not going to do the whole test, but imagine you wake up in the morning and your shoes and socks are on the ground. So can you stand on one leg, reach down, grab your sock? Can you put the sock on, still staying on one leg? then can you reach down, grab your shoe, put the shoe on, and then tie the shoe, and then put the foot down on the ground? It's just a nice test. You can do that in the morning when you put your shoes on for work, and now you have an extra 30 seconds of balance training you never got before. And it's just what they call the old man balance test. You can also do it a little longer if you want. Put the shoe on, take it off, see if you can do the whole thing. But it's a nice test, and it's just something to give you guys a little extra balance to work on and a little movement. All right, let's move on here. So do we have any questions here on mobility? We're right on time here, so I'm keeping with the target here before we move on to the next section here. All right. Let's continue on here.
Trying the old man balance test, and I'm not doing too good, Coach. This is Matt.
Matt, well, you just got to work on it, but it's we'll get you there.
Hey, Stephan.
Yes.
So, for example, how much stretching would you say you should do before you do some weight training with machines or anything as mobility training? Should you spend like maybe 5 to 10 minutes before attempting weight training on either free weights or machine weights?
That's a great question. So thank you for asking that. So I'll give you guys a great question here, and that's it. Should you stretch? Can you stretch before you strength train? So the answer is that you have to keep your stretching dynamic before a workout. And what that means is if I wanted to stretch, say, my shoulder and pec before I did some upper body work, I would come against the wall here and I would peel into the stretch. I would hold it for maybe 5-10 seconds and I would come on out. And then I would peel back in and come on out. And that keeps it dynamic, like moving through a range of motion. Or if I wanted to open up my hip flexor in a little lunge here and try to get ready for a run, I could just sink on in, lean back, get a little stretch here, come on out, straighten the leg and go back in, get a little stretch. So you can always do dynamic stretching before any strength moves, but you don't want to do a passive stretch, because a passive stretch, let's say I were to do a ragdoll pose and I just fold on over and I hang here for 2 minutes. So I can actually lengthen my hamstrings during these 2 minutes, and a muscle that is lengthened and then used right away actually opens up a little bit more chance of injury. So because it's in a new range that it's not used to. So you want to be careful there. But there is something you can do where when you improve range of motion, and this is what I do in mobility work, is it is good to say fire the muscle you're stretching at end range, because that actually will give you a little bit more stretch gain. So for example, in this one here, if I were to hang out here for say 90 seconds, during the 90 seconds, if I'm only working on my mobility and I'm not going to do strength training afterward, I can inhale here, push into the wall, create a little tension in this end range, and then exhale and then completely relax and just try to sink deeper in the stretch. And that's how we build tension at the end of the stretch. That's more for stretch gains. But does that answer your question?
Yes.
All right. Sounds good. We will continue on then. Good questions. All right. So I want to talk about breath work, because this is something that it is even more missed than mobility work. All right. So we are going to get into a little bit of data here, a little bit of nerd knowledge and stuff, but hopefully this is beneficial for you. So talked about, it's very underrated. It can help you in performance, health, stress. There's a lot of things that breath work is good for. So how should you breathe for health and performance? So the answer is that you should be breathing in and out through your nose, and that's out to up to almost about 80% or higher of your max intensity during workouts. Now, your nose can be trained, your nose can be opened up with exercises. So this might sound hard, but you will, I'm going to jump ahead of myself here, you will deliver more oxygen in your body. So then a lot of times I get this question, but I thought breathing in through my nose brings more oxygen in your body, and it does, but we need to talk about blood and carbon dioxide for you guys to understand the full picture here. So carbon dioxide is not a waste gas. It's actually produced internally. And carbon dioxide rising is actually our signal to breathe. And in order to understand how oxygen is delivered to the body, you have to understand what's called the Bohr effect. And I'll do this in 2 quick bullet points. But it is kind of more of a boring topic. So like I play on words there. So when you breathe into the mouth, you take in too much oxygen. And so your CO2 levels drop. when your CO2 levels drop, the pH in your body increases and your blood vessels start to constrict. So people who are mouth breathers tend to have more cold hands and feet. And then the bond between red blood cells and oxygen becomes stronger. And that's actually bad, because that means that as that blood circulates through your body, it's not actually being delivered to your body. It's kind of the blood is hemoglobin is holding on to that oxygen and everything. So here's what you want to do. When you breathe into the nose, you take in less oxygen, your CO2 levels rise. And that causes the opposite to happen. Your pH is going to decrease. Your blood vessels can dilate. You can actually feel this when you do breathing exercises, that your hands can get a little warmer, almost like a tingle. And the bond between red blood cells becomes weaker, and oxygen is actually delivered to your cells. And this is really important, and why we should always be trying to breathe through our nose as much as we can. And one thing to note is when people start this, most people are pretty sensitive to higher carbon dioxide. And so they're going to have air hunger sooner, and it just gets better, easier over time. So we're going to talk about breath work and zone 2 cardio. And I got a nice picture of me training for Kilimanjaro there in the winter-ish with this Bane mask. But I'll tell you what that is in a second here. So we're going to do the maximum breathlessness test today. And I'm actually going to pause and let anyone who wants to try this, or anyone who's watching the recording. But first I want to talk about zone 2 cardio and that mask I'm wearing. So zone 2 cardio is something that I ask all my clients to do and incorporate into their daily routine, which we'll talk about as well. But it's a heart rate that if you were having a conversation and exercising doing it, you could hold that conversation, but it would be difficult. And you should also, a good key here is be able to breathe through your nose doing it. So an example I give is running. Every time I'm in any trail or something like that, and I see people running, all I see is mouth breathers. And people just don't realize that they're not delivering more oxygen to your body. You're actually dehydrating yourself. You lose 40% more water. Even if you were to breathe in your nose and exhale out your mouth, you move 40% more water. So it's just something that we all need to be more knowledgeable about and work on, because it's the way we should be breathing. And this is a really good zone for heart health, and what I try to get a lot of my clients to work into. How you do zone 2 cardio is do whatever you like that will get your heart rate up. Play with your kids, be a coach, run, anything here that I list. Rucksack is a huge benefit to people who like to walk, especially if you don't do any strength training. Wearing a pack on your back that distributes the weight, turns walking into exercise, gives you bone density. It's so important for people who only use walking as an exercise that is something I recommend hands down if you can. Even going to a sauna, get your heart rate up, breathe through your nose. So yeah, do it all breathing through your nose. Now, I talk about Mouthtape, and Mouthtape can be very beneficial. I tape my mouth shut every workout. I was a terrible mouth breather before I started learning this stuff. I work out in my garage gym, so I don't have to do this in a public gym looking like a freak, but it is really helpful if you work out at home to force yourself to start using your nose and breathing through your nose. And it's also helpful for sleep if you're a mouth breather. I don't have time to get into the benefits of how it can help with sleep apnea and stuff. This isn't a breathwork class, but it is really important. So now I'm going to tell you guys what the MBT is. If anyone watching this is pregnant, do not do this. If you have any serious medical conditions, do not do this. But I'm going to teach you what this is, and I'll give an opportunity for people to try it if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, this is going to test your sensitivity to carbon dioxide. So what you do is you just relax a second, stand still, take a normal inhale your nose, just a normal breath, nothing crazy, a normal exhale out your nose. When you get to the end of the exhale, keep your mouth shut, pinch your nose, and you start walking. Now, I'm not going to do it, but you would start walking and you would count your steps. And this would be just normal steps, like you're just walking, no super turbo baby steps to try and get a high number. And then when you can't go any further, 99.9% of people cannot pass out from this exercise because you're doing it after an exhalation. So your carbon dioxide was already higher. So you don't have to worry about that, but you are going to get air hunger. And then you would stop and breathe through your nose. And it's important you breathe in your nose after that because you're going to pull in that nitric oxide. So if you want to try this, you would stand up and you would simply inhale in your nose, exhale, pinch your nose, and count your steps. Now, I'm not going to do this right now, but if you were to be doing this right now and you go to the maximum, remember at the maximum, you want to stop and breathe in your nose. You want to pull that nitric oxide in your nose. That's going to unblock your airways. It's really good for the body. Once again, a lot of good effects here, but that's more for a breathing class. And if your number is under 30, you have a significant amount to improve. If it's over 60, which very few people I know have gotten on their first try, then you have pretty good breathing. And if you want to be an athlete at the top of your game, you shoot for 100. So that's how that works there. And we're going to move on from that right now, unless anyone has any questions. All right. There's a lot of cool stuff in this area. Breathwork is so powerful, and we just basically touched on the surface of it. I hope that if you go running and if you're a runner or a biker, you're going to try to do it through your nose. Okay, let's talk base nutrition, because we're talking about health and longevity here, and you can't outtrain bad nutrition. It's as simple as that. If you're strength training, if you're trying to lose weight, this is going to be an area where you need to focus. Now, I tell people the changes you make should be sustainable for life, and you want to make jumps ahead. You want to make small changes. All right. The yo-yo comment there is because a lot of people will do a super strict diet for maybe a gym that says let's have this challenge, and I'm not a big fan of challenges, because in a challenge, people will go so far out of their comfort zone that it's not sustainable for life. And then they'll go back to their normal life after, and they'll yo-yo right back, put all the weight on. So it should be small changes. And keeping a journal and writing down everything you eat can be an eye-opening experience if you have not done it, because it can really show, sometimes in some cases, if you're going to eat a Snickers bar and you have to write it down, you might not eat that Snickers bar. So it's just a nice thing to do for a challenge for yourself. Now, I like to look at nutrition as an energy and energy out balance, and you control what you can, because rather than saying calories in, calories out, which only looks at one picture, energy in, energy out encompasses so much. Like, for example, your sleep. If you get poor sleep, less than 5 hours, your hormones are off and you're going to be much more hungry. And so knowing that, the thing that you can't control, you had a bad night's sleep, but you can know that in your mind, your body is craving more food because you slept poorly. So the energy imbalance you do have control over. So you can say, hey, I know I just slept poorly and I'm hungry because of that, so I'm just not going to eat as much. It's hard, but you control what you can. If your hormones are off and you know that, you still can control what you put in. And so you control the variables you can, and you just do your best. Now, I think most people know that you're supposed to eat more whole foods than processed. There's a lot of addictive chemicals in the more processed foods you get. And so I think that's kind of general. But when I like to look at things, because we don't have a lot of time to go in nutrition here, I like to try and keep things simple and give people a couple of goals to shoot for. So if you're trying to lose weight, an awesome calculation for macros is your goal body weight times 12. So if you wanted to weigh 150 pounds and you times that by 12, your goal is 1,800 calories. You're like, okay, well, what do I need to eat in those 1,800 calories? So you want to shoot for around 0.7 grams of protein per pound of goal body weight. So if your goal was 150, you would be shooting for 105. And that can be as high as I get 1 gram per pound of body weight a day, because I like to stay lean and protein keeps me full. And so I eat 1 gram per pound of body weight. So I get like 185 every day. But if you get to 100, you at least are, in this example here, it's just good for you. Now, of course, anything I do here, if you have a nutritionist, a physician that's recommending something else, please follow their advice, not mine. If you have something that's going on with your kidneys that you can't process protein, but this is a general goal for a healthy person. And lastly, I also like to talk about fiber, because that would be 14 grams per 1,000 calories. In this example, you want 25 grams of fiber. And the reason why a lot of my clients want to lose weight, and if you're in a calorie deficit, the truth is you are going to be hungry, and protein and fiber help fill you up. So that's pretty much the basics that I look at with nutrition. Obviously, there's much more we can go into in detail here, but some of these are just basic numbers here that we can shoot for, and this gives you an idea of where to go from here. All right. Now, nothing would be complete. We hit a lot of the stuff that we can control, and I can help control as a health coach. But things that you need to definitely work on your own and get help from a physician is blood work and stuff like that, because you can look amazing on the outside, but if you're not having good blood work done, I mean, I learned this example from my father. He never had blood work done. He looked overall pretty healthy. He was moving around well, never complained about anything, and then boom, gone. And had someone told him to have blood work done or have a calcium score test, which I recently did, that's a $50 test that can show any blockage around your heart. And most physicians aren't going to write that because it's a preventative test that you have to pay cash for, but it can literally save your life. So blood work and this kind of work is so important. It just can't be underrated, and it should be thorough. And I like to say, from once again, Dr. Peter Attia's book, Outlive, that you should have what's called like a medicine 3.0 doctor. A lot of this is more like concierge medicine, but someone that's going to be more proactive than reactive. Our standard medicine nowadays, they wait till you become diabetic before they give you your insurance covers medicine, things like that. And it's a very reactive medicine approach, and you kind of have to take this in your own hands if you want to. And that's why they have all these different concierge blood works and different that now that you can get. But it is really important that you're having good, thorough blood work and getting tests done that are in your medical history and your family's medical history. So that's all I have to say about that. Moving on. Sleep. Sleep is just so important. Another lifestyle factor that can be overrated here. If you get less than 6 hours sleep, guess what? You're pre-diabetic for the day. Your hormones are off to tell you you're hungry, leptin and ghrelin, and your immune system is 50% compromised. I know that the only times I ever get sick is when I have more than 2 nights of bad sleep. My immune system gets so weak that anything that comes in can get me. And if I get good sleep, it just changes the game. And I think that there's a factor out there that a lot of times people don't realize, but if you feel like 5-6 hours is enough, now your life may dictate that that's all you can get. And if that's your case, you have a baby or something like that, then, I'm sorry, it's one of the things you got to go through in life. But there's people I know who just say, all I need is 5-6 hours. They don't have any reason, but they just say that. And I feel like those people have forgotten what even 100% even feels like, because their body's so used to running at 75% that they don't even know what 100% even feels like anymore. So it's just important that we get that. One of my coaches I follow says he just tries to at least be in bed for 8 hours every day. That way, at least he knows he's going to get in bed, maybe read for 20 minutes with a red light, not a standard light, nothing with blue light that can distract your eyes, and or put that in your eyes to keep you awake, and just try to do that. But anything you do to get more sleep is so important. I mean, even I was talking to someone today about Alzheimer's, and when you get less sleep as you get older, the system, the lymphatic system that cleans out amyloid deposits in your brain, you don't sleep as good when you get older, and then these amyloid deposits start building up, and then next thing you know, you have a higher risk of Alzheimer's. So optimize, once again, the variables you can control. Screen and light exposure. I wear these red light glasses that block red light at night, because everyone's on their phone nowadays. You got to check an email at night anytime past 8 p.m. In fact, I should have mine on right now, but I'll put them on right when I leave here. I have them on, and it's just one extra thing that just gives me a little extra something, right? If you're up doing work and you have to work, put those on. It's just going to help out. You can change the lights in your house to red. There's a lot, but dark room, sleep mask, temperature, sleep tape, all that. Yes, sleep tape, when you get used to it, it can improve your sleep. Once again, that's a breathing thing. It can help with sleep apnea, but once again, mild sleep apnea. Temperature, watch your water and food consumption. All this stuff here I've listed is just good habits to do. And once again, you're just going to do your best. Walking, I can't go on a health talk without talking about walking. There are so many benefits here when you get up to 10,000 steps a day. I think I read in a book, it talked about like 50% reduction in this disease. Movement in general is so important. And then you have other things to consider in your life too. Once again, you're a busy adult, so it depends on what you have time for here. But, meditation, I like to do breath work for my meditation. I like to do breath work for my mindfulness, but there's so many other different things that can be beneficial here. So let's talk about how you tie this all together to try and give you guys a little help here. So we covered a lot, and I like to look at things this way. I like to look at things in days because it's just easier. So now, unless you're in a situation where you have to do like exercise snacks because you only have 2 minutes to do, then this might not apply to you, but here we go. I like to do a day of strength training, and I like to do full body workouts, right? So, but whatever you can do, I put 2-minute exercise snacks here, 5-minute, workouts, whatever you can do. Anything is better than nothing, but full body if possible. Train barefoot, breathe through your nose, and use the components we talked about. Train movements, train push, pull, do some kind of leg movement, a core movement, and you have a full body workout. Day 2, do some mobility and soft tissue work. If you're really busy, but you like to watch TV, you could be sitting on the floor in a butterfly position. You could be, if you do take the time to learn some stretches from my online mobility work, you could do it while watching, do some while watching TV, different stretches like a scorpion or different ones. You could get a floor desk. I actually have a floor desk where you sit on the floor and it works your hip mobility. Anything you can do to squeeze it in is good. And if you have a movement screen done, you'll have actually a better picture of what you should work on, which is one thing I recommended earlier. Day 3 here is your zone 2 cardio day. We should all have a day where we should just get outside and play, do what you love. You love to bike, you love to run, coach your kids in a soccer game, running around doing that. Some of my clients do that. Just get out and do what you love. And if you don't love any of that, but maybe you love going to a sauna, do some breath work in the sauna, get your heart rate up. Just do something that would get your heart rate up. And when you do full body workouts and you do them properly in your strength day, you will get some zone 2 cardio in, going from movement to movement and short rest periods. So that's another way we get extra heart rate in throughout the week. I taught you guys the MBT. You could do 5 of those in the middle of the day. It'll wake you up if you're tired. If you have a big presentation or something, you're feeling really tired and you just had a bad lunch. Hopefully you didn't have a bad lunch, but if you did, do 5 of those. It'll wake you up better than caffeine usually. And breathe through your nose on your walks. When you do your walks, just try to breathe only through your nose. I'll give you one more bonus tip. Do some cadence breathing. Breathe in as you walk for say 4 or 5 steps, then breathe out for 4 or 5 steps. That's called cadence breathing, only through your nose. If you get a little air hunger on the exhale, that's a good thing. You're improving your sensitivity to carbon dioxide. And get the walking in. Park a little further from work. Have walking. One of my clients just told me that he transitioned his first meeting in the morning to a walking meeting. And I thought that was an awesome idea to get something in for meeting with one of his clients. Take the stairs, add that rucksack to your walks to get extra benefit from it. Anything you can do to be efficient and tie things in is going to be a good thing. Get a walking pad or a treadmill under your desk at home. I like to think of atomic habits if you're going to try to add these things in and make changes. You want to make it easy. So if you're going to work out first thing in the morning, A, don't stay up too late doing Netflix, but B, put everything out the night before. So right when you wake up, your workout clothes are there. Everything's there to make it easy to you to build that new habit in. And then if you have a pull-up bar and you want to improve your shoulder health and your grip strength, anytime you pass through a door, you can get a doorway pull-up bar. Be careful. Some cheap ones will damage your door frame. I have recommendations for good ones. They are more pricey, but you can just pop in a hang as you're going through the doorway. And next, you got some shoulder health and grip work. So lots of ways to squeeze it in throughout the day. We're wrapping up here, and then we'll open up for questions at the end. There's a cool poem on the side here. I think I got it here on this next slide, but usually because the goal of this, guys, is to help you take action. I always say it's not usually a time issue, but a priority issue. If you prioritize your health and you make time for it and you say, and you take on the identity of a healthy person, then you're going to prioritize your health and you're going to make time for it in your life. And so whenever someone says, I don't have time, I just say, well, probably not that you don't have time. It's just not a priority for you. And sometimes that pisses people off, but sometimes the truth hurts. And the truth is, when it comes to your health, you either spend time on money and exercising or eating well, or you spend time and money on injury, sickness, and disease later. And there's the poem on the side that I was mentioning, choose your heart. And we all get to choose our heart in life. We get to choose the heart of working out and taking care of our body, and the heart that comes with that, or the heart that comes with having it break down and not being on this planet longer because we didn't take care of ourselves. So we all get to choose our heart in life. Here's some cool facts though, to motivate you to make change and get you revved up to start implementing some of this stuff. People who exercise get sick less and spend an average of $2,500 per year on healthcare. Every hour of proper exercise, this is cool, can add 9 to 11 hours of life. Now, you can't work out 50 hours a week and live forever. There is a bell curve here. But this study was over 650,000 people over 10 years. And the magic number came out to being in around like 7-8 hours a week of exercise. And if you're doing everything I say here, getting your strength training in for an hour, doing some mobility work, some soft tissue work, and then getting everything else in, you can hit these numbers, and you can. It just adds up that I think even on the low end, I believe the math was that every hour can give you 3 extra hours of life, you know, if you did 1 hour a week of exercise. So it's a really cool thing. And the study was super cool. I think there was another book I read recently that referenced that too. But on Outlive here, this is just such a cool quote here. Exercise, the most potent longevity drug. Actually, not only delays actual death, but prevents cognitive and physical decline better than any other intervention. So it's just, it's something that we all should be doing our best to do as much as we can, but do it properly. All right. So we're going to end here and we'll open up for questions. I got this done right on time here. This is my second one. I hope you guys got some benefit out of this. The goal here was to provide a high-level overview of the concepts and goals we set. And I hope that you guys feel we accomplished that I got a high-level goal over the strength, over mobility work, over breath work, zone 2 cardio, all the things we talked about. But the biggest thing that you can do from this is that you can take action. So if you're already exercising, hopefully you have found a way to improve it. If you're already exercising, maybe you're going to add in some breath work. Maybe you're going to start working on breathing through your nose in your cardio. But it's really important. If, however, I am a health coach and you are saying, hey, I like everything I learned today, and I want to work with someone who teaches this, I have the Strong for Life, the anti-aging movement method program. And it's a remote coaching program. I can work with you anywhere in the United States. Covers everything we talked about, movement screens, everything like that. And you'll know exactly what you need to do each day to reach your goals. It's assigned in there. And if you're interested, I'll put a consultation call link in with the recording. There's no pressure at all. But if you do decide that this is something for you and you want to take that consultation call, if you sign up, I'm going to throw in a free Zoom live movement screen to make your life a lot easier. It's normally $150 value, but we'll jump on live via Zoom and I'll run you through the movement screen so we can baseline you and get the program built even faster and better so you don't have to do the movement screen on your own. And if you do that before the end of June, that'll be your bonus for signing up from this masterclass. That being said, I hope you guys got a lot out of this. In fact, I think a bullet point didn't come up. Oh, that was interesting. It went backwards. I'd love your feedback on this, what I can do better. I tend to talk really fast, and I've gotten that feedback before, and I probably did it again today. It's because I love what I do, and I try to get everything accomplished here in this. Try to provide as much value as possible. If you'd like this, I can also do this for a group. So you could do this if you want me to do this presentation for your work or something, that's a possibility. But at the end here, we will open up for questions. Overall, if there are no questions, but if you're watching this online and you do have questions, feel free to send them to me and in the recording, and I'll help you out. But this give you time to ask me anything that was related today or something in fitness that was not discussed, but maybe you have a question on. I'm open for the next 5 minutes here. We can even go over if some people want to, but any questions here at the end?
Hi, Stephan. Could you mention that book? Is that book titled Outlive? And who's
Yes. Outlive by Dr. Peter Attia. Really good book.
And then you mentioned a supernova ball. Is that in fact something that you would just be comfortable with? Some people say tennis ball, some people say a lacrosse ball, some people have a ball with the nubs on it. Is it an actual ball called a supernova ball?
Yes. So this ball is from a company called Mobility WOD, and you can buy them on Rogue Fitness, and it's called Supernova. But if you search on Amazon, you'll find replacements. This is about the size of a softball. So I have many different tools. So a lacrosse ball is amazing for the bottom of your feet. So many people don't realize that if you smash out the bottom of your feet, that is a game changer for your overall health. You can even improve your hamstring range of motion by smashing out your feet. So I have something similar. This is called the mini supernova. And then I have the larger one, but this one is the one that gets into your hips and allows you to, if I put this smaller or a lacrosse ball into my hips, it would not have the same effect as this ball. So the tools that you use really can make a difference in how much better of soft tissue release you get. So I like to think of these tools sometimes as my own personal massage person. So I saving money on a massage, boom, $100 every time I sit on this and I massage myself out.
And you mentioned red light glasses. Are you talking about glasses that you would, like, let's say you were going to sleep, you wanted to go to sleep at 9 o'clock and you stating that you're walking around with these glasses so your mind or your lenses don't pick up all this light garbage
Yes.
around?
Yes. So I know, Augie, I believe you wear glasses. So in your case, you might be looking for something you put over your glasses, but basically it's a lens that I don't wear glasses. And so, excuse me. So I can just pop these on, and they have like a filter built into them that blocks out the red light from your phone, or the blue light. I'm sorry. They usually a red tinge, or sometimes are, because it blocks out the blue light that can cause your. I'm pulling a mind blank on the word I'm looking for, but something with your sleep cycle. It can throw that off. And so that's why it's really important for us not to be staring at phones and devices at night, because that blue light gets in our eyes and it throws off our sleep cycle.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Great questions again.
Stephen, as a bookseller, I would be remiss not to talk about books, and I thank you for talking about Atomic Habits and, of course, Outlive by Peter Attia. Two
Yes.
more books, The Body Keeps the Score, which is also a very good book. And
Excellent.
another one called Gray Matters, which is something that I highly recommend. If people
Awesome.
really get into Peter Attia, they can hear his podcast on The Drive, where every week
Yes.
he has a new podcast and refers to different experts, and it's quite enlightening. So it talks a lot about the same way you think as far as longevity and some of the 5 main aspects that we must be doing every day to continue to extend our life. So,
Awesome. Good stuff, Juan. Thank you. Yes, I love your references to books are always helpful and stuff like that. I'll throw some more out your way too when we have more time, but good stuff. Thank you. All right. Oh, I have something here in the chat. Let me see. Oh, okay. So I do have a question here from Nicole. She's still here. Good. What type of test? So it's called a calcium score test, and it's a $50 test. And the physician who I got it from told me that he has literally people come in and they have just a little bit off blood work, and he's like, you know what, just to make sure, let's have this test done. And he's found clients that he's had patients. Well, he has had patients and that have like 30% blockage in their 30s, and they didn't even know about it. And by the time he said that patient gets to 50, that block that's 30% would be at 60. And by the time that person gets 60, it'd be 80% block. So that person would have, not knowing that this was going on, had a heart attack possibly sometime in between 50 and 60. I mean, when those numbers start going up. So it's a really good test that for $50 that he says it's one of his more popular tests if you have any type of heart disease in your history. All right. Anyone else?
Good stuff, Coach. This is Matt. This stuff is really motivational, and it really helps me to stay on track. I do find myself falling off from time to time, and I try to get back on it. But listening to this and walking through these things is going to really help me to keep a rhythm going. So I appreciate that.
Thank you very much for letting me know that. I appreciate that as well. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, I just want to say
All
I
right.
found this really helpful as well. It was a great course. I got a lot of good takeaways out of it, and I'd like to go deeper into the breath work with you soon.
Awesome.
And I was wondering, are you on social? Should we follow you anywhere on social to get little nuggets here and there?
Oh, yes, definitely. So I don't have all those up here, but I'm TAA4 Fitness on a lot of them. I think on Instagram, I have an underscore. I do put breathwork tips up there, a little bit different things here. Facebook, you might have to find me under Trainer Alheim there. But you know what? When I send out the recording, I'll definitely make sure all my social links are there. I am on social and I do posts every single day. So thank you for bringing that up, Kyle. And thanks for letting me know you enjoyed it as well. And we'll definitely talk more on breathwork. In fact, I'll try and do a breathwork seminar coming up here. I haven't done one in a bit, but it's a really cool area that I can do another masterclass on.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Going once, going twice. All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. I really appreciate you having here. And for those of you watching the recording, I appreciate you guys as well. Have a great night, and we'll see you guys another time. Take care.